I'm about to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Right now, at this very moment, you're probably destroying your own life without even realizing it. And the worst part? You think you're doing the right thing. It's called the blame game. And if you're playing it, you're losing. Every single time. Your career is stalling. Your relationships are crumbling. Your mental health is deteriorating. All because of one toxic habit that feels so natural, so justified, so right. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Every time you point your finger at someone else, you're giving away your power. You're handing control of your life to the very people you're blaming. Sounds crazy, right? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will change everything. Let me paint you a picture. You didn't get that promotion you deserved. Your boss is an idiot who doesn't recognize talent. Your coworker took credit for your work. The system is rigged against you. Sound familiar? This is the blame narrative. And it's poison. When you blame your boss, you're saying your career success depends on someone else's decisions. When you blame your coworker, you're admitting you can't protect your own contributions. When you blame the system, you're declaring yourself powerless. Is that really the story you want to tell yourself? Here's what actually happens in your brain when you blame others. Your mind creates a comfortable narrative where you're the victim. Victims don't have to change. Victims don't have to improve. Victims get to stay exactly where they are, wrapped in the warm blanket of self-righteousness. But that blanket is suffocating you. While you're busy pointing fingers, your competitors are learning from their mistakes. While you're explaining why it's not your fault, others are developing new skills. While you're waiting for circumstances to change, successful people are changing themselves. Let's talk about relationships, because this is where the blame game becomes absolutely devastating. Your partner doesn't listen to you. Your friends don't appreciate you. Your family doesn't understand you. Again, notice the pattern? Everyone else is the problem. What if I told you that blaming others in relationships guarantees their failure? Think about it. When you blame your partner for communication problems, you're saying only they need to change. But communication requires two people. By refusing to examine your own role, you're ensuring the problem never gets solved. I've seen marriages destroyed by this mindset. One partner constantly blames the other for every conflict, every disappointment, every unmet expectation. They build a mental case file of all the ways their spouse has failed them. Meanwhile, they never look in the mirror. They never ask what they could do differently. The result? Resentment builds like toxic sludge. Trust erodes. Connection dies. And when the relationship finally ends, the blamer walks away convinced it was all the other person's fault. They learned nothing. They changed nothing. And they're doomed to repeat the same pattern in their next relationship. Now let's get real about mental health. This is the part that really matters. Chronic blaming doesn't just damage your external life. It's eating you alive from the inside. Every time you blame someone else, you're training your brain to see yourself as helpless. Psychologists call this an external locus of control. It means you believe your life is controlled by outside forces rather than your own choices. And research shows this mindset is directly linked to depression, anxiety, and learned helplessness. You're literally programming yourself to be miserable. Think about the mental energy you waste on blame. Hours spent replaying conversations, building arguments, imagining confrontations. All that cognitive power could be used for problem solving, creativity, growth. Instead, it's burned up in the fire of resentment. Here's the paradox that will blow your mind. Taking responsibility for everything in your life, even things that aren't technically your fault, actually makes you happier. Why? Because responsibility equals power. When you own a problem, you can fix it. When you blame others, you're stuck waiting for them to change. Let me give you a concrete example. You get stuck in traffic and miss an important meeting. The blamer says it's the traffic's fault, the city's fault, the other driver's fault. They arrive angry and defensive. The responsible person says, I should have left earlier, I should have checked traffic reports, I should have had a backup plan. They arrive focused on solutions. Who do you think has a better day? Who do you think gets better results over time? The blamer stays stuck in the same patterns. The responsible person evolves, adapts, improves. Now I know what you're thinking. But sometimes things really aren't my fault. Sometimes people really do wrong me. Sometimes circumstances really are beyond my control. You're absolutely right. Life is unfair. People will disappoint you. Bad things will happen. But here's the critical distinction. Acknowledging that something isn't your fault is different from blaming. Blame is about avoiding responsibility and maintaining victim status. Acknowledgement is about seeing reality clearly while still choosing to focus on what you can control. When someone treats you badly, you can acknowledge that their behavior is wrong without making yourself powerless. You can say, this person acted inappropriately, and I choose to set boundaries, or remove myself from this situation, or address this directly. See the difference? You're not denying reality, but you're also not surrendering your agency. Let's talk about how this shows up in your career specifically. I've coached hundreds of professionals, and I can spot a blamer within 5 minutes. They have a story for every setback. Their last boss was incompetent. Their previous company had a toxic culture. Their industry is dying. Their clients are impossible. Meanwhile, the high achievers I work with have a completely different narrative. They talk about what they learned from difficult bosses. They describe how they navigated toxic cultures. They explain how they adapted to industry changes. They share strategies for managing difficult clients. Same challenges, totally different mindset. The blamer's career trajectory is predictable. They hop from job to job, always convinced the next place will be different. But they bring their toxic mindset with them. They never develop the resilience, adaptability, and self-awareness that career success requires. They plateau early and stay there, bitter and confused about why others are passing them by. Here's another devastating consequence of chronic blaming. It destroys your credibility. When you constantly blame others, people stop taking you seriously. They see you as someone who can't own their mistakes. Someone who always has an excuse. Someone who will throw them under the bus when things go wrong. Trust evaporates. Opportunities dry up. People stop wanting to work with you. And ironically, this creates more situations to blame others for, feeding a vicious cycle of victimhood and isolation. So how do you break free from the blame game? First, you need to catch yourself in the act. Start noticing when you're about to blame someone or something external. Pay attention to phrases like, it's not my fault, they made me, I had no choice, if only they had. These are red flags. Second, ask yourself a powerful question. What's my role in this situation? Not what's my fault, but what's my role? This subtle shift opens up possibilities. Even if you're only 10% responsible, that 10% is where your power lies. Focus there. Third, practice the phrase, I could have. I could have communicated more clearly. I could have asked for help sooner. I could have set better boundaries. This language acknowledges your agency without drowning in self-blame. It's about learning, not guilt. Fourth, separate the person from the problem. Instead of saying you're lazy, say, I notice this task isn't getting done, what's blocking you? This applies to yourself too. Instead of saying I'm a failure, say, this approach didn't work, what can I try differently? Focus on behaviors and solutions, not character judgments. Fifth, build a practice of gratitude and ownership. Every day, identify one thing that went well and acknowledge your role in it. Also identify one thing that went poorly and acknowledge what you could have done differently. This trains your brain to see yourself as an active agent in your life, not a passive victim. Let me share a transformation I witnessed. I worked with a manager who blamed her team for everything. Projects failed because they didn't listen. Deadlines were missed because they weren't motivated. quality suffered because they didn't care. She was miserable, her team was miserable, and her career was stuck. We started with a simple exercise. For 2 weeks, she had to find at least one way she contributed to every problem she identified. At first, she resisted hard. But slowly, she started seeing patterns. She realized her instructions were often unclear. She noticed she micromanaged, which killed initiative. She recognized she never celebrated wins, only criticized failures. As she took ownership of her role, something amazing happened. Her team started responding differently. They became more engaged. Communication improved. Results got better. Within 6 months, she got promoted. Not because her team magically changed, but because she stopped blaming them and started leading them. This is the power of ditching the blame game. When you stop pointing fingers outward, you start building power inward. You develop emotional intelligence. You cultivate resilience. You become someone people want to work with, live with, be around. Your relationships transform because you're no longer keeping score of who's wrong. You're focused on connection, understanding, and mutual growth. Conflicts become opportunities for deeper intimacy instead of battlegrounds for proving who's at fault. Your mental health improves because you're no longer carrying the heavy burden of resentment. You're not wasting energy on grudges and grievances. You're free to focus on what actually matters, building the life you want. Here's the ultimate truth about blame. It's a choice between being right and being effective. You can spend your whole life proving that your failures aren't your fault. You can build an airtight case for why you're a victim of circumstances. You can die on the hill of righteousness. Or you can choose effectiveness. You can ask, what can I control here? You can focus on solutions instead of excuses. You can take responsibility even when it's uncomfortable. And you can build a life of genuine power, connection, and growth. The blame game promises comfort but delivers misery. Taking responsibility feels scary but creates freedom. Which path will you choose? Because make no mistake, this choice will determine the entire trajectory of your life. Stop giving your power away to the people and circumstances you're blaming. Start reclaiming it by owning your role in every situation. Your future self will thank you. And the people around you will notice the difference immediately. The question isn't whether life is fair or whether people will wrong you. They will. The question is whether you'll let those realities define you, or whether you'll define yourself through how you respond. That's the only choice that truly matters. Make it wisely.